Welcome to my channel Alane Signal. The transport shuttle ATLAS-9 descended through the crimson clouds of Karthus Prime like a wounded bullet. Inside the crowded troop bay, 80 cadets sat in silence while the hull groaned under atmospheric pressure. Most of them were aliens from powerful species across the Galactic Coalition. Tall Valens with silver skin. Four-armed Krathi warriors. Massive reptilian Dravoks whose claws scratched against the metal floor every time turbulence shook the ship. And among them sat one human. Cadet Elias Mercer kept his eyes forward while whispers drifted through the bay. Fragile species. Primitive. They still use chemical weapons on their own planet. Why would the Coalition even admit a human? Elias had heard it all before. For 3 years at the Coalition War Academy, humans had been treated like a joke. Earth was new to interstellar politics, technologically behind, and lacked the genetic enhancements common across the galaxy. Most species viewed humanity as clever animals pretending to be civilized. The shuttle slammed onto the landing platform. A siren echoed. Cadets disembark immediately. The rear hatch opened to freezing wind. Karthus Prime stretched before them. A brutal military world of jagged black mountains and endless storm deserts. Lightning crawled across distant clouds like glowing veins. Waiting on the platform stood Commandant Zyrex. The towering Dravok officer folded his armored arms behind his back. "Welcome," he growled, "to final evaluation." The cadets straightened instantly. Zyrex paced before them slowly. "Most of you will become officers in the Coalition fleet." He stopped briefly in front of Elias. "A few of you will fail." Several cadets smirked. Zyrex continued. "For your final test, you will survive 48 hours inside Sector 12. Silence fell instantly. Even the arrogant Krathi cadets looked uneasy now. Everyone knew about Sector 12. The Forbidden Hunting Zone. A massive wilderness preserve containing creatures too dangerous to transport off-world. Zyrex's reptilian eyes narrowed. "You will be hunted." A nervous murmur spread through the formation. "The objective is simple," he continued. "Reach Extraction Tower Sigma before time expires." "And what hunts us?" one cadet asked carefully. Zyrex smiled. That somehow made him look worse. "You'll find out." The drop transports carried the cadets deep into Sector 12 before scattering them across hundreds of kilometers. Elias landed hard in dense forest. Rain hammered the canopy overhead while alien insects screamed somewhere in the darkness. His survival implant flickered weakly. No signal, no communications. Perfect. Elias checked his equipment. One plasma knife, emergency rations, a weak pulse pistol, and a tracking beacon. Standard Academy cruelty. He began moving north. Hours passed beneath gigantic trees whose roots rose from the mud like twisted skeletons. Then he heard voices. He crouched instantly. Ahead, 3 cadets stood near a stream. Krathi brothers, Raxer and Vec. Beside them stood a pale Valen female named Saris. They noticed Elias immediately. Raxer laughed. "Well, look what survived the drop." "Human," Vec sneered. "You'll slow everyone down." Saris crossed her arms. "Leave him." Raxer stepped closer anyway. "You know why they brought humans into the Coalition?" he asked mockingly. Elias said nothing. "To remind real warriors what weakness looks like." The Krathi shoved him backward. Elias barely moved. That surprised them. Raxer grinned wider. "Maybe we should test human endurance." Then the forest went silent. Every insect stopped. Every sound vanished. Saris looked around nervously. "Something's wrong." A low growl rolled through the trees. Not loud. Deep. Ancient. The ground vibrated. The cadets slowly turned toward the darkness beyond the stream. 2 massive yellow eyes opened between the trees. Raxer whispered, "Impossible." The creature stepped forward. It was enormous. Nearly 4 meters tall at the shoulder, covered in black armored fur with bone-like plates along its spine. 6 glowing eyes reflected through the rain while curved fangs protruded from its jaw. A Nexari predator, the apex hunter of Karthus Prime. Even coalition soldiers feared them. Elias saw genuine terror spread across the cadets' faces. The beast sniffed the air, then charged. Chaos exploded instantly. Vec fired wildly. The plasma bolts barely slowed it. The Nexari slammed into him like a missile. Bones shattered. Vec screamed once before the creature hurled him into a tree hard enough to crack the trunk. Raxor roared and attacked with an energy blade. The predator moved impossibly fast. One swipe opened the Krathi's chest armor like paper. Saris grabbed Elias. Run! They sprinted into the forest while screams echoed behind them. Branches tore at Elias's face as thunder crashed overhead. The growls followed. Closer, closer. Saris stumbled suddenly. Her ankle twisted beneath exposed roots. She hit the mud hard. Go, she shouted. Elias looked back. The trees behind them shook violently. The predator was coming. Fast. Saris crawled backward desperately. Leave me. Elias drew his pulse pistol. One weak weapon against that thing. Pointless. Still, he stood his ground. The Nexari burst from the forest. Mud sprayed beneath its claws. The massive creature stopped only meters away. Its 6 eyes locked onto Elias. The pistol trembled slightly in his hand. The beast lowered its head. Sniffed the air once. Then something strange happened. It stopped growling. Saris stared in disbelief. The Nexari slowly circled Elias. Not hunting. Studying. Its massive nostrils flared repeatedly. Then, incredibly, the creature backed away. Elias didn't move. The predator gave one final rumbling sound before disappearing into the forest. Silence returned. Rain poured endlessly around them. Saris looked horrified. That's impossible, she whispered. Elias lowered the pistol slowly. I know. By dawn, rumors had already spread across surviving cadets. The human had faced a Nexari and lived. Some claimed the beast was injured. Others said Elias had hidden while the creature lost interest. But Saris knew the truth. The predator had spared him. No one understood why. The surviving cadets eventually regrouped near abandoned ruins deep inside Sector 12. Only 23 remained alive. Commandant Zyrex watched them remotely from orbit aboard the command ship Valiant Spear. An officer beside him frowned at the surveillance feed. The Nexari ignored the human. Zyrex's claws tapped the console. Yes, that has never happened before. No, Zyrex agreed quietly. It hasn't. Back on the surface, tensions grew worse. The cadets barricaded themselves inside the ruins while night approached again. Raxor, somehow still alive despite his injuries, glared at Elias from across the chamber. This is your fault. Elias looked up. What? The creature smelled you and spared you. That means it hunted the rest of us instead. Several cadets murmured agreement. Saris stepped forward angrily. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. Raxor snapped. Humans are predators too. Primitive predators. Elias stayed calm. Believe whatever you want. Raxor rose slowly despite the bandages covering his chest. You know what I think. He growled. I think the Academy brought you here as bait. A few nervous laughs spread. Then the walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Everyone froze. Another impact. Closer. Outside the ruins came heavy footsteps. Not one creature. Many. A cadet rushed to the broken entrance and looked outside. His face drained of color. There are 5 of them. Panic erupted instantly. The Nexari had surrounded the ruins. Massive shadows moved beyond the cracked walls. Glowing eyes appeared in the darkness. The predators had begun coordinating. Hunting as a pack. That's not possible, Saris whispered. Nexari are solitary hunters. Not tonight, Elias muttered. The first creature attacked seconds later. Stone exploded inward as claws ripped through the wall. Cadets fired plasma rifles wildly. Blue energy lit the darkness. One predator crashed through the entrance while another leapt from the roof. Screams filled the ruins. Blood splashed across ancient stone. Elias grabbed Saris and pulled her behind collapsed pillars. This way. A Nexari landed directly ahead of them. Its jaws opened. Saris froze. Elias stepped in front of her instinctively. The predator stopped. Again. Its eyes focused entirely on him. Then it slowly lowered its head. Behind it, the other creatures suddenly halted their attack as well. The ruins fell eerily silent except for distant thunder. Every surviving cadet stared. 5 apex predators stood motionless around Elias Mercer. Like soldiers awaiting orders. Raxor whispered, terrified, "What are you?" Elias didn't answer because he didn't know. Then a new sound echoed across the ruins. A deep mechanical roar. Dropships. Bright searchlights cut through the storm clouds above. Commandant Zyrex descended with armed coalition soldiers surrounding him. The Nexari immediately retreated into darkness. Zyrex walked toward Elias slowly. For the first time since arriving at the academy, the terrifying Dravok officer bowed his head slightly. Not much. Just enough for everyone to notice. The cadets stared in shock. Human cadet Elias Mercer. Zyrex said carefully, "Come with me." Aboard the Valiant Spear, Elias sat inside a cold observation chamber while senior officers argued outside. Finally Zyrex entered alone. The massive Dravok looked unusually serious. "You deserve answers," he said. Elias folded his arms. "That would be nice." Zyrex activated a hologram. An ancient star map appeared. Thousands of years ago, the Commandant began. Before the Coalition existed, the Nexari nearly exterminated every known species in this region of space. Images flashed across the hologram. Burned colonies, destroyed cities, alien corpses. They were unstoppable bioengineered war beasts created by an extinct empire. Elias frowned. Then how were they stopped? Zyrex looked directly at him. Humans. Elias blinked. That's impossible. We weren't even spacefaring. You weren't advanced. Zyrex agreed. But ancient Nexari records describe a species from a death world called Earth. The hologram shifted to primitive human hunters carrying spears beside enormous animal carcasses. The Nexari recognized humans immediately. Zyrex continued. Your species evolved differently from ours. How? Most intelligent life evolved as prey before becoming civilized. Humans evolved as persistence predators. Elias stayed silent. You hunted creatures larger and stronger than yourselves until they collapsed from exhaustion. You crossed frozen continents, survived impossible climates, fought megafauna with primitive tools. The hologram displayed early humans facing mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant bears. The Nexari fear humans because your ancestors once hunted creatures very similar to them. A long silence followed. That's insane, Elias finally said. Perhaps, Zyrex admitted, but instinct is powerful. The Nexari remember. Elias leaned back slowly. So this whole test was meant to observe you. Anger flashed across Elias's face. You threw cadets into a death zone. Just to study human instincts. Zyrex didn't deny it. The Coalition fears humanity. Why? Because every species in the galaxy needed technology to become dangerous. Zyrex's eyes narrowed. Humans became dangerous before civilization even existed. The final ceremony took place 3 days later. Only 19 cadets survived Sector 12. The Great Hall of the Academy overflowed with officers, diplomats, and military officials. Whispers spread constantly. Everyone wanted to see the human. Cadet Elias Mercer stood alone at the center platform while Commandant Zyrex addressed the assembly. For generations, Zyrex announced, the Coalition judged humanity as weak. His voice thundered across the chamber. We were wrong. Silence filled the hall. The human cadet displayed courage under impossible conditions, protected fellow cadets, and survived direct Nexari encounters. Raxor stood among the injured survivors, unable to meet Elias's eyes. Zyrex continued, "Strength is not measured by claws, armor, or genetic superiority." The giant Dravok turned toward Elias. "It is measured by the will to face monsters, even when afraid." Then, before the entire assembly, Commandant Zyrex removed his command insignia and placed it into Elias's hands. "A warrior's honor, the highest recognition the Academy could give." Gasps spread through the hall. Elias looked stunned. Zyrex spoke one final time. "Humanity will no longer be underestimated." And for the first time since Earth joined the stars, the galaxy finally understood something terrifying. Humans were never the weakest species in the room. They were simply the newest predators. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.